everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for the final session. And I know it's been a long day, incredibly content-rich day with a lot of action items for my own takeaways, and wanted to invite just a few of our closest friends and family here at the forum. People have been partners and advisors and friends, and who you've seen on camera over the last couple months and couple days. And so with that, I would love to turn actually first to my friend Eamonn Store, who was an early friend and family of the forum. Eamonn, are you ready? You seem caught off guard.
No,
and then invite folks who are in the room. You know, if you guys have takeaways or actually want the mic, we can actually give you the mic. But we're going to keep it short. We'll wrap at 5:30. But I just wanted to just some final takeaways, and then I'll come around afterward. Eamonn.
Peter's upset I'm going first because he knows I'll take up all the time.
Big mistake. Big mistake.
I'm going back over all of the events that you've done, Aimée, and I just think there's so much powerful stuff there. The things that I really took out today are, I always love listening to Mitch and Jungle and all, but you know, many of the answers are right under our nose when you listen to him talk about the tribes and how they heal themselves with the medicines of the jungle. And that last session really resonates with me around natural security is key, not just about how we think about the Arctic and the waters around us, but the farmland and who owns it and who's using it, and the produce that we're eating and where it's come from and how that could become a national threat. And I'm normally an optimist, and I feel like I'm struggling a bit at the moment. I think we're going to go through a winter of discontent. And the whole theme of the Sun Valley Institute about resilience, I think, is I'm kind of mentally gearing myself up to be resilient through a winter where health will become a growing issue. I don't think COVID is far from over. I think the weather patterns are looking very busy this year, and I think we're going to be could be in for some pretty dramatic weather patterns. And I think civil unrest is going to connect to food security, and all this stuff is going to connect. And that bothers me a lot. And I think I mentally think about how resilient I need to be, and the partners that I work with. I feel like the entrepreneurs and the activists and the youth will take us through many of these short-term issues that we are dealing with before the strategies of some of the bigger thinking and the bigger investments and the larger corporations, and God help us, our government, have the time to rebuild. And so, I'm preparing for rough waters ahead, particularly around food security and hunger in this country, which we haven't seen for a long time. Working with partners like Sustainable. I know Summer's on here. I saw her questions, but going to local food program, having our own local food sufficiencies and supporting local farmers that keep our restaurants going, that keep our most at-risk communities employed. We have to really think this, because I don't think the media is reporting it in a way with the urgency it needs right now.
Thank you, Eamonn, for starting us off so well. I'd actually love to pass it to Shawn Shepard because of that linkage to food security. So Shawn from American Farmland Trust, you guys have been such a wonderful partner and doing critically important work across these issues of resilience. And so really grateful to have you with us.
Well, we're just grateful to be part of the dialogue and the communication. Part of what I've been struck by, actually, in all of our conversations, it actually reminded me of some work I did in my PhD program. And, adults don't change until they have a crisis. From a psychological perspective, we don't change until we have a crisis. So we've been living in this sort of bubble of we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about where our food's coming from. We don't have to worry about our healthcare systems. They're always here for us. And I feel like I'm with you, Eamonn, that I'm feeling challenged. I'm feeling difficult. I'm feeling a need to have the energy for resilience. And so I deeply appreciate the forum for that. I think when we do talk about the crises, there's so many layers, and there was that incredible image today of the waves coming in. And one wave is coronavirus. One wave is all of our economic systems. I think food systems is another wave that's going to hit us, and so I am inspired. I think one of the great quotes that I wrote down, and I'm going to keep it at the top of my computer from here on out, is let's have no half measures. Let's have no half measures. It takes everything. So that would be so locally, get involved in the Spark Project. Let's change to regenerative agriculture in Idaho.
Thank you, Shawn, for getting us to action. Absolutely. That is one thing that we really want to make sure we do, right? We're all here to accelerate. So thank you. Maggie, it looks like you might be ready to jump in.
Okay. I want to echo what Eamonn and Shawn said, too. One of the things I love about this forum, and it's only my second year, are such a diverse cross-section of leaders and change makers and activists that you bring. And when we look at the visionaries and the articulated actions that were from so many groups just yesterday or the day before and today, the theme of food, how it creates kinship, it creates relationship, it creates collaboration, is so important to sustain us on an individual level, let alone on a collective community level. I was really taken yesterday with the World Central Kitchen and what Matt Nook talked about, and how they were able to pivot with the coronavirus from a one-shot dealing with a hurricane or a storm or something in New Orleans or Puerto Rico to dealing with the whole United States and putting in place a network of 2,500 restaurateurs. I talked to Kristen Coates a bit last night about that presentation because she wasn't able to be on it. And with her connections with Second Muse, about being able to bring together a group of people from this forums, some of these speakers and other interested parties, and maybe even some graduate students from like a Harvard Business School, or people that do case studies, and looking at what World Central Kitchen has done, how can we expand that model to food resources at the center of a community and use that as the outreach for dialogue with police, dialogue with COVID responses and systems, dialogue with all of the local support systems, working through the aegis of how they have gone about from logistics in just a few months of creating this incredible network. And what can we learn from them? And maybe at a future Sun Valley Forum, focusing as a case study on what they've done, what their lessons learned have been, what have been some of the challenges they faced, and then a freebasing of ideas and possible solutions for how that idea can be adapted to the different social and climate ills we're facing today.
Thank you, Maggie. Really concrete recommendations in a number of ways through convening that we can help get the right things scaled up. Mm-hmm. I would love to pass it off to Dan next. Dan Lutkenhouse from Hawaii Tropical Bioreserve and Garden. Thank you so much for being with us and putting together such an incredible session today about experiential learning, a topic we really haven't had in the room before, and so vital to accelerate to the building of stewards.
Yeah, well,
thank you.
First of all, thank you, Aimée, for such an optimistic perspective and platform. That's the one thing I love about the Sun Valley Forum, and this will be our second year participating and supporting it. I really miss the kids. Last year, you had this incredible session with all the kids, and in the honest, it is really about the kids. Putting myself at the top of the age group, we're really here to empower the kids. And that really is going to come down to giving them the tools and the optimism. Mm-hmm. The world has been through crises before, and history says we're going to get through it. It's the culture that comes up with the innovation and the optimism that actually always leads that. So really, that to me, being an endless optimist is what the Sun Valley Forum really brings. It brings a bunch of really great thought leaders together, and it gives me a lot of hope that there's a lot of brain power going forward. We're really proud of what we're doing. Again, I'll reiterate it. If you want to be part of that conversation about place-based learning, please come and let us know. We're looking forward to have the forum being part of that conversation also. I think the context of national security is obviously the biggest thing we have. There are certain parts of the world that with a push of a button can make this an entirely moot conversation if we know. And that seems to be becoming a bigger issue day to day. So getting out of the realm a little bit of the environment, we really do need to look at the global geopolitical situation and be very conscientious of that. And I think that's something that we also have to educate the kids about. They need to be aware that what happens politically, frankly, around the world affects them locally as well as the environment. So I think they're very much intermixed, which has been articulated by some of the other panel in here. So again, thank you so much, Aimée, for a fantastic forum. We look forward to next year. And again, if Pebble works, this will be an ongoing session that we can all participate in 365 days a year. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for your leadership in taking that idea through and working that concept to grow into fruition. And, hope that is the ideas going forward. We track the Spark project, we track the Pebble project into maybe a Spark project next year, ready to convene folks around it to help scale it up. Our final person I'm going to turn to is Peter Horton, friend and advisor and longtime communicator. How do we engage and inspire and activate people for impact? Thank you, Peter, for being with us.
I'm trying to get Ruby to come in here.
Oh, really that would be so great. So for those who don't know, Ruby Horton, Peter's daughter, part of our Sun Valley Youth Council, spoke at our June 29th event this year. So we had a little bit of youth voice, not enough. And Ruby is just wonderful. If we could get her on, we'll add her last minute. And Barney's here too. Barney Shawn, Barney's in the audience, and happy, Barney, if you want to ask for the mic, we will throw it your way. But Peter, thoughts?
Well, until Ruby gets here, I guess I want to reiterate to a degree Eamon's pessimism, but try and braid it together with a little bit of optimism.
Okay, I'm bringing him on, but I think we can have him on where you're on.
Because I think, on some level, this pandemic we're going through is nature's shot across the bow. As bad as it is, it's compared to what is in front of us right now, if we don't change, we don't make big changes in terms of climate refugees, in terms of food supply, in terms of hot spots in the globe are no longer habitable just kind of on and on. This is a wake-up call. This is a chance, in spite of all of the sadness and tragedy of it. It's a chance. It's an opportunity. And I find myself, as this goes on and on and on, I think we all, when this first happened, thought, okay, in a couple of months it'll ease up and we'll find our way through this. And it's not doing that. And so I find myself adapting to it in a way, kind of what Jerry Brown calls the new abnormal. I find myself going, okay, here's where we are. What do we do about that? How do we make this work? How do we make this be progressive in the way the times are demanding of us that we make? And I find something like this, like the forum, the fact that Aimée, you and your team could pull this together so effectively in the midst of this new abnormal, to the point where I find myself at the end of this as exhausted as I always am when I'm there in person. It's really rich and full. There's so much coming at us that I go, okay, the wake-up call is being responded to. We hear all of these people, all these really intelligent, dedicated, forward-thinking people taking this moment and doing something with it. And I find myself going, yeah, boy, these are real times of stakes, which we haven't had in a long time. And yet I also feel reminded here and in a number of other places that our resources are vast in terms of our capacities, not just technologically and scientifically, but also in terms of the human resources, what we are, what we're made of, not only in our country, but in the world. It's so easy to be magnetized by all of the struggles and by all of the conflicts and all that's happening. And yet, underneath all that is also, I'm feeling, you feel it anecdotally, but you also just feel it in situations like this and others where you feel, no, what we're made of will eventually, it'll eventually prevail. And so thank you, Aimée, for doing this in the midst of this so much. And thank you for giving us, a chance to feel like we're going somewhere good.
Thank you, Peter. I'm going to ask Mike Gordon to say so. Well, first, let me ask Barney to say something. Barney, welcome. I'm so happy you're joining us. I mean, I realize you're not Ruby and you're not under 20 anymore, but you are at the relative beginning of your career and have dedicated your life to this from the beginning. And I'm just so grateful to have you as part of our community here. And thank you for what you do every day.
Well, thank you, Aimée and Mike, and just everyone who's constantly involved. Eamonn, you are always showing up, mate. It's always good to see your face. And just to echo what Peter said, I really feel like it gives me hope as well, being a part of these sort of communities. But I think our challenge now is how do we get the other 70% who aren't having these conversations involved, and how do we engage people who are really struggling right now and focusing on employment and really going through hell in a lot of regards and all around the world. And I think it's just important that we keep inclusive and trying to keep relevant for those who might not have either the possibility or the platform to have hopeful conversations like this. And as Peter said, if it bleeds, it leads, and everyone's far more focused on the negativity right now. And I think as disruptors in all of our careers, it's how do we affect those people who aren't listening right now and who aren't watching the next eco documentary and who don't even know Plastic Free July is happening. It's how do we engage those other people? And I think that's really what the decade of change and everything that's going on with the UN and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals is about. It's how do we get that scaled effect and get that captivation from those people who might not care right now, and how do we be subtle but also incentivize and whether it's through economics or social benefit, how do we get them on board the momentum of what we're talking about? And I think I'm doing my best to, within that property I mentioned, and really just trying to make that relevant piece come to life, because I think we just got to marry and bridge a lot of things and really just show what's going on, because so much magic and so many amazing people and amazing technology and amazing momentums are going on, but it's just making it accessible and distributing it, which is the challenge right now. So humbled to be a part of the conversation once more, and really just excited to see where we're all going over this next 10 years. So you have my full support, and if anyone needs anything, I'm standing by in Australia.
Thank you, Barney. I mean, I think that you really hit back on some of the structural issues that came up in our discussion today, and the fact that farmers are the ones struggling when they're the ones whose food we need most. We're not valuing what we should need to be valuing, the work farmers and teachers, right? I mean, it's just, we have these misaligned incentives for people to go into what we actually need right now. And so there's structural issues, but there's also really on the place-based, like what you're doing, and some of the work I think that some of the institutes I know have been working on, what Dan's been working on, what are those strategies to help address the inequalities, and how do you create economic opportunity for those who need it most, such as by localizing the food system, localizing the energy system. How do we go after systemic solutions that addressed social justice and equity, racial justice, environment, and economy all at the same, right? We have to be having all of those lenses in front of us. And I feel like so many folks who are in this room, and you're right, speaking the choir, but this is the hopefully influencer action choir who then go out and engage and support and activate. But I do hear you, and thank you again for that. And finally, I'm going to turn it to Mike Gordon to wrap us up because we're running over. And Mike, I first of all, there's no way this series would have happened without Mike Gordon. He is our Director of Communications and Events at Sun Valley Institute. He is our forum director, and he made this event happen. I have a long career with incredible friends and friends of friends who I respect and admire and tap into to ask to join us here. Mike is the one who helps me brainstorm it out, work on the curation together, and then operationalize it. And Mike has a deep background in this space, having worked for the Schumacher Center for a New Economy, worked for Lava Lake Lamb and Livestock, running their operations. So he has substantive expertise as well as incredible operational and communications chops. And so I'm just so grateful to Mike Gordon, who really made this happen. So Mike, a few parting words and thank you. Please.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. That's really the word is gratitude to just the people that were in the room for these 3 days. It was fantastic. And I'm honored to get to know all of you over the past few months. This is really Eamonn's doing. I remember Amy and I were in the car in mid-March and trying to figure out what we were going to do because we were like, well, what's going to happen in June? And we talked to Aimée. He's like, well, you have to do something. You can't just cancel it and wait till 2021. So thank you, Eamonn, for telling us that we have to do it. This is the result of that. Thank you for dealing with the issues of being an all online platform. Appreciate that as well, and really happy with how it turned out. I'm really grateful for all of you being part of this and pushing forward for where we need to go.
Thank you, Mike. Any other comments from the crew or from our participants? I was just writing a little note to thank you all, the speakers, the partners, and the participants, the questions, the comments. It all makes the event, and I can't wait till we can actually hopefully be together again. And on that note, save the date, June 13, 16, 2021, June 13 to 16, 2021. We've reserved our venues, the Ardress Theater and special venues there, the Limelight Hotel across the street. So hopefully we can come together, but also have a virtual option, because I think we've learned that we want to reduce our footprint and we want to expand our audience. And yes, there's a really special community that comes together and that we're all, I feel like, building upon because we've been together somewhere. Everyone who's been here with us the last few days, we've met, and but we want to come back together again in person, but also, as I said, broaden the audience and the impact. I think with that, for me, I'll echo Mike's words, which is gratitude. So really grateful, and I need this. This is hope and inspiration, and yeah, there's tough stuff, and but knowing that the global community of changemakers, this incredible community that part of Sun Valley Forum, you're out there, and look forward to continuing our year-round machinations, supporting the projects and the partnerships, the collaborations get sparked here. We're here, and to help accelerate resilience wherever you are. So thank you again. Any final? All right. With that, we're wrapping it up. Thank you again.
Thank you, Aimée.
Thank you, Amy. Fantastic.
Really well done.
Thank you to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, Eamonn. Ciao, mate.
Cheers, Barney.
Thanks.